Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Priya, thank you so much for having me here. Vamsi and Harry, thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing to hear everyone speak today as well. I recently learned about eMedEvents and started looking it up online. And just like Dr. Nugent mentioned, I said, how did this not exist before? Great concept. I think they have a great vision. I think they're definitely addressing a gap that was needed in the healthcare industry. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a stroke-trained neurologist. I'm currently the director of teleneuroscience and telemedicine at Cooper University Hospital in South Jersey, where we're using a hub and spoke model to address gaps in stroke care. I'm also the chief medical officer of Stat Health University. We're a multi-specialty telemedicine group helping hospitals find solutions that are facing shortages in neurology, stroke, neurosurgery, and psychiatry. Now, I'm sure everyone's heard buzzwords, everyone's kind of heard about telemedicine and what is it and how the industry is growing very rapidly right now. What's so great about telemedicine? Very simple. And I think eMedEvents is going to help us address this as well. The US is facing a major problem. Well, we have a lot of problems, but one of them is the physician shortage that we have. So the AAMC, the American Association of Medical Colleges, is anticipating a shortage of 60,000 to 100,000 physicians across all specialties by 2030. Now, I learned about telemedicine about 4 to 5 years ago when I was doing my MBA. That time, everyone knew about it in radiology. Teleradiology was very prominent, and I started to wonder, is this concept going to survive? Is this going to be adopted by physicians? How are consumers going to adapt to this? How long will this last? Will insurance companies reimburse? Will Medicare and Medicaid accept this? And luckily, 5 years later now, it's working. So I think there's 3 phases of telemedicine. We're in the second phase. Phase 1 was the last 10 years that we went through. That was basically answering the question, does telemedicine work? That was answered by thought leaders at Harvard, Lee Schwam, my mentor Brett Meyer at University of California, David Hess. They answered that question with evidence, with data, with trials and research and said, yes, it works. We're fortunate enough now to be in phase 2. Where I think phase 2 is institutions, hospitals, providers, now saying, we know telemedicine works, how can we use it, where can we use it, and how can we make it efficient? I think that's what's happening now, where hospitals, institutions are trying to use this across different modalities, different specialties, neurology, stroke, psychiatry, cardiology, ICU, and dermatology. The list goes on. Now it's being quite accepted. We're also at a turning point right now in the industry where there were a lot of barriers over the last 10 years. Insurance, legal, malpractice liability. A lot of doctors, if I'm a board certified physician and I'm starting this new way of practicing medicine, what liability do I have? Will malpractice cover me or not? Similarly, physician adoption. Now physicians are curious. How can I use this in my practice? Consumers are hearing about this through insurance companies, on TV. I want to know how I can see a doctor immediately, on demand. So I think we're now in phase 2, and this is going to last another 5 to 7 years. Phase 3 is going to come when now we've seen this. This is the new standard of care. This is the new normal way to deliver medicine across not only the country, but across the globe. And I think that's a very exciting time. We're at a point where we're using modern medicine to treat patients that didn't have access to doctors before. I focus on stroke, so I specialize in telestroke. There is a stroke every 40 seconds. Every 4 minutes, someone dies of a stroke. There's 795,000 strokes a year just in this country alone. Now, stroke is the 5th leading cause of death and the #1 cause of disability. Very important, especially in my eyes, but along with other patients, 1/3 of Americans live over 1 hour away from a stroke center that they can receive treatment for. Therefore, only 3 to 6% of patients, stroke patients, actually end up receiving treatment for a stroke because of a narrow time window, and we have a very short time of treatment. By using telestroke, we are now able to offer hospitals who don't have stroke providers a way to treat patients that were never able to be treated before. The number of strokes is going up, and there's also an anticipated deficit of 19% of neurologists around the country as well. Recently, we've also, Medicare and Medicaid has now passed a law called the FAST Act just last week, which is now saying they will be reimbursing for this type of care. In addition, there's a new trial that just came out in stroke called the DAWN trial. This will enable us to treat patients Where prior it was just a 6-hour window for an embolectomy, we can now push it and treat patients up to 24 hours. So we're very excited about this. We think there's great use for telemedicine. I think with eMedEvents and their vision and expanding here, I think we're looking forward to working with them as well and trying to see how we can expand this and provide care to people who didn't have it before. Thought leaders and neurologists such as Dr. Ravel, like he mentioned before, we have many conferences to attend. Neurology, I attend stroke neurology, medical conferences, so this is going to be a great platform for all of us as well. Thank you so much for having me here.